Hello everyone, my name is Suraj and I'm a graduate student at Oklahoma State University. Today I'll be presenting our work on comparative study of sequential data assimilation methods for the Kuramoto-Sivashinsky equation. So the work that I'll be presenting lies at the intersection between machine learning, data assimilation, and the prediction of chaotic system. So in the past few years, there has been a lot of work done to combine machine learning and data assimilation. And some of the applications include learning subgrid scale parameterizations just from noisy and sparse observations, or to emulate a dynamical system just by having the information about the observations. And these data-driven models are increasingly being applied in weather forecasting or wind farm simulation or tasks such as design optimization, optimal control, and so on. So the goal of this work is to enhance the prediction of chaotic system just by using extremely sparse and noisy observations. By extremely sparse, we mean when we have a very less number of observation points as compared to the full state of the system, which may mean like let's say 5 to 10%. And we'll be applying our methods to the Kuramoto-Sivashinsky equation. So the KS model was derived in the context of reaction diffusion system. The first term on the right-hand side of the KS model is the viscous stabilization term. The second term basically is responsible is basically the diffusion term, and it is responsible for the instability at small scale. The last term on the right-hand side of the KS model is the nonlinear term, and this is responsible for the transfer of energy between the large and small scale. So the level of chaos in the KS model is determined by this bifurcation parameter L, and it depends on the length of the computational domain and the viscosity. So we are keeping the length of the computational domain constant, and we can vary the parameter nu so that we will get different chaotic behavior in KS equation. We are applying the Dirichlet and Neumann boundary conditions on the left and right side of the domain, and we use second order finite difference discretization, and for the time stepping we apply fourth order Runge-Kutta scheme. The figure at the bottom shows the three-dimensional view of the velocity field for two different level of chaos. On the left hand side we have the slightly less chaotic system, and on the right hand side we have the more chaotic system. And we'll be making use of the sequential data simulation, so that basically that allows us to handle partial and noisy observations during the online deployment. So in data simulation, we initialize different ensemble members based on the known knowledge about the system. Then we evolve the system from some time for some time based on the known dynamics. And once the observation gets available, they are assimilated using the Kalman filter equation. Then the analysis state and the covariance metrics are determined based on the statistics of the all the ensembles. And then we go to next type step, and the procedure is continued. And we'll be using the two data simulation algorithm based on the ensemble Kalman filter. The first one is the sequential ENCAP, and the second one is the deterministic ENCAP. The difference is that in case of the stochastic ENCAP, we generate the virtual observations, but in case of the deterministic ENCAP, we do not have any virtual observations. And we'll be comparing the performance of ENKF for three different levels of observations, which corresponds to 12.5%, 25%, and 50% of the full state, which means like we are observing 16, 32, and 64 observations, and we have the number of ensembles fixed at 40 for all the numerical experiments. The initial condition and the observations are contaminated by adding the Gaussian noise. And the figure over here shows the prediction of the KS equation using the stochastic ENK. And you can see like even when we are observing only the 12.5% of the full state, we still get a very good accurate prediction. And we get the similar behavior for the deterministic ENCAP also. There is a little discrepancy at the final time step, which is shown on the bottom left plot. However, when we go to more chaotic system that is at nu equal to 1 by 4, we see that for the less number of observations, the prediction is not good for both stochastic ENCAP and for the deterministic ENCAP. So there are other methods like the inflation, localization, or increasing more number of ensembles that might help to improve the prediction with the less number of observations. But like We are just using the plain vanilla version of these ENKF methods. And we proposed a new method called as LSTM nudging, which basically draws the inspiration from nudging. And in the nudging data simulation, the forecast error is used as a constraint to the model evolution equation. So in case of the nudging data simulation, the system is evolved from time tk to tk plus 1 based on the known dynamics. And once the observation gets available, the correction term is determined, and based on certain linear operator g, that correction is added to the wrong background state of the system. So instead of using the linear G operator, we can basically learn this nonlinear operator through LSTM. And one of the main assumption here is that we assume there is a lot of information available from the past. And in geophysical flows, we do have a lot of archival information, either from satellite measurements and there are a lot of data sets available. So what we do is like we initialize different ensemble members with certain initial condition, and then we evolve the system for some time. And once the observation gets available, we determine the correction term at those points. And the correction term is nothing but the difference between the wrong state or the background state of the system and the true state of the system. And then the LSTM is trained to learn the mapping from the input vector, which consists of the background state and observations, and the output of the LSTM is the correction term. So during the online deployment, we just have to initialize one ensemble members, and that is evolved in time. And once observations are available, we determine the correction term from the trained LSTM, and that correction term is added to the background state, and the procedure is repeated. And if we see the performance of the LSTM nudging, we see that we get a very good prediction even when we are observing only 12.5% of the state of the system. In case of the more observations like 25% and 50%, the prediction is as good as or better than the ENKF approaches. So one of the main advantage of LSTM nudging is that during the online deployment, we only need one ensemble members. However, we assume that we have a lot of training data from the past, and if you see only the selected trajectories like U8, U51, and U101, we see that there is a very good match between the true and the LSTM nudging prediction. To summarize, we show that the sequential data simulation methods can be utilized to achieve the goal of improving prediction when we have the sparse and noisy observations. We also proposed a new method called as LSTM nudging, and in this LSTM nudging method, a neural network is trained to learn the nonlinear correction term. The correction term is nothing but the deviation from the true trajectory, and we successfully demonstrated this LSTM nudging method for the KS model with a very strong chaotic behavior. Some of the open questions are like, how do we apply these methods to high dimensional system? And we think like the advanced architectures like convolutional LSTMs or the can be utilized for that. One other thing that we're currently working on is to investigate transfer learning approaches in such a way that we can retrain the ML model once the new observations are getting available, which can help us in improving the forecast performance. Also, the application of the LSTM nudging method to more complex realistic dynamical systems is also a part of our ongoing work. And I would like to thank you all for listening to this talk. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.